Today on the Geek Effect, we're unboxing the Sentinel, Miles Morales, and Peter B. Parker figures, and these are seriously next level. I'll be highlighting everything from the incredible sculpting to the insane amount of customization Sentinel gave each character. Plus, I'll even tackle a few questions to see if Spider-Man figures really need butterfly joints, how movie accurate these figures are, and much more. Let's talk about it. In 2018, we saw the release of Into the Spider-Verse, Sony's first animated Spider-Man film, and it revolutionized animated superhero films and animation in general with its stunning visuals and heartfelt story.
I love this burger, so delicious. One of the best burgers I've ever had.
This movie was able to reignite our passion for Spider-Man and introduced many to the character of Miles Morales. The film's popularity led to a surge in many things too, especially for Miles as a character, because we saw Insomniac give him his own video game in the Spider-Man series. In 2023, Phil Lord and Chris Miller gave us the sequel Across the Spider-Verse, which exceeded expectations. And throughout this time, we've seen many action figure companies give us characters in this unique design. And this is where the Japanese company Sentinel stepped in. One of Sentinel's most notable product lines is their fighting armor line, where iconic Marvel characters are reimagined in armor suit. It's a pretty cool concept, and at some point we'll be taking a look at the Spider-Man figure that was made for the fighting armor line, so drop a like if you're looking forward to that. Until we got Into the Spider-Verse, Sentinel hadn't made any normal looking Spider-Man figures. This was their very first attempt at it, and a lot of collectors in the community fell in love with these figures instantly. With the amount of praise these figures have received, there have been multiple reissues and expansions to include characters like Penny Parker, Spider-Gwen, and Spider-Man Noir. Sentinel even made an exclusive clear version of Miles, which had some additional pieces to use with the standard version. After several requests here on the channel, I was able to add these figures to my collection to see what they're all about, and I even made sure to get the deluxe version of Peter's figure. I got these from Nin Games, so be sure to check the description for the affiliate link if you want to grab your own and support the channel a little bit. The Sentinel figures for Miles and Peter B come in these stunning boxes that capture the Into the Spider-Verse essence. Each one has vibrant colors and comic-inspired details like halftone effects and panel-style windows, making each box feel like a piece of the movie. As someone who cares about presentation of a figure, I really like how these turned out. The back of Miles' box recreates the iconic movie poster pose with a nighttime twist, while Peter's deluxe version shows him hanging upside down holding his coffee mug. Inside, the packaging is thoughtfully organized with 2 trays for the figure, accessories, and display stand. Peter's deluxe set includes an additional box for the exclusive accessory, a stone statue base which is inspired by the one seen in the movie. And like many import figures, there are instructions included walking you through all of the pieces and how to use them. It's very thorough and well thought out so that you don't make any mistakes when using these figures. Removing the cover and the additional plastic, let's take a look at everything included, starting with Miles. Inside of the trays, we'll find the figure with alternate heads, various hands, a smartphone, headphones, a mallet, and pieces for his leap of faith look. There's also a webline included and Sentinel's standard display base with an articulated arm. With Peter's deluxe version, we get the figure including multiple heads, hands, web effects, newspapers, and the large line display base along with the standard display base and articulated arm. They also included parts to switch between his different physiques, so the dad bod that Peter B has and then the more fit version of Peter Parker. We'll explore these accessories in detail later, but for now, let's check out the figures that has everybody talking. Starting with Miles, we can see right out of the box how screen accurate he is. Sentinel really nailed his lanky teenage proportions. They did a great job with the sculpting and paint work around his body, especially the animated details like the spray painted spider emblems. It's incredibly well done. The sculpt also does a good job of capturing Miles' essence without losing any of that animated charm that we saw in the film. One thing that immediately catches the eye is going to be the paint job. It has accurate red and black tones as well as a matte finish all over his suit for that flat appearance, except for the glossy eyes so that they have that reflective look. The web lines are also sculpted in and painted over in gray, which looks amazing. I do prefer when web lines are sculpted in on a Spider-Man figure suit. Not only does this method add an extra bit of detail, but if the paint ever wears off, you'll still see the pattern, and if you want, you can go back and repaint it yourself. However, there are just a couple of minor issues I have with the look of this figure. The first being that his thighs stick out a bit more than they should. It does look a bit odd to me, and it breaks up the flow of the body sculpt in my opinion. My second issue is going to be with the neck. I do feel that Sentinel should have raised it up some, because when you're looking at it straight ahead, it almost looks like he doesn't have one at all. Now, Peter B. Parker's figure is a perfect representation of his character from the movie, right down to the belly showing through the suit. His stylized design is spot on with those long, lanky arms and legs, and I love the attention to detail on his sculpted muscles, especially around the neck and back. One thing that caught my attention the most is the web lines. They're painted gold rather than the black we frequently saw in the movie. I believe the reasoning for this was that in certain scenes the web lines appeared gold to show the suit's reflective material. So while some, including myself, may have wanted black web lines, I think it's cool that Sentinel really paid attention to these details from the source material. Based on just the details alone, I can see why many collectors love these figures and are recommending them to a lot of people looking for Spider-Verse figures. Miles includes an impressive selection. You've got gripping hands for his web line or mallet, wall crawling hands, relaxed hands, and even hands for holding his smartphone and spray can. And of course, it wouldn't be a Spider-Man figure without web shooting hands, so they do have those included, and it has a nice feature. The webs are pre-attached, so no fiddling with wrist joints like on SH Figuarts Spider-Man figures, which is a nice touch. The unmasked head is beautifully sculpted, but it's locked in a side-eye expression. This could make some poses look a bit off, so I wish they had included another option with the eyes looking straight ahead. The alternate masked head with a confused expression is a cool variation, but I can't help wishing Sentinel had included more facial options for the mask. While the exclusive version offers an extra option, it is frustrating that it's locked behind a nearly $100 paywall. So Mophex definitely has the upper hand when it comes to the head sculpt variety because you get everything in one package. The jacket and shorts pieces for Miles' iconic Leap of Faith look are a bit of a hit and miss. While the sculpt looks nice, using plastic material instead is a big disadvantage because it limits the posability. The biggest example of this is the arms, which don't rest naturally. And another issue I found is that the hood pieces don't tab into the jacket securely, so you're always going to be messing around with them. I honestly would have preferred soft goods here, similar to what we saw with the Mophex figures. Despite these limitations, it is still a cool piece to have with the figure, it's just you'll be limited to the types of poses you can do with it. I will say my favorite part of this look though is going to be the sneakers, which look very accurate to the ones that he wore in the movie, except they are missing that iconic swoosh, a clear result of not being able to receive the licensing for this figure, and that's something that seemed to happen with the Mophex and even the Hot Toys version that was released. So when asked if these figures are more movie accurate compared to the Mophex figures, I would say yes, especially when you look at these sneakers, which they absolutely nailed. All it needs is that swoosh and you're pretty much good to go. Both the Mophex and Hot Toys figures did this weird thing of putting a lot of red on the sides to cover up that white area, and I don't think they should have done that. Peter B. Parker is loaded with accessories. You've got fist with thumb separation to hold the newspapers, splayed hands, wall crawling hands, web shooting hands, and gripping hands for the multiple web effects he has. And they do include the coffee mug hand as well. They also included the hands from the diner scene, but I don't see the point in them adding them, especially since there's no burger for him to hold and complete the look. For the extra head sculpts, you get two for Peter B. Parker, one with this sort of confused face and the other one with the face that looks like the one from the diner scene. The expressions of these heads don't look bad, but I do think Mophex did a better look capturing that older appearance of Peter B. Parker. Sentinel also included a pair of glasses which fits onto any of the unmasked heads included. Now with this being a 2-in-1 figure, Sentinel includes some extra pieces to swap from Peter B. Parker to Peter Parker with the blonde hair and blue eyes. It's a very simple process, and I do like how this looks. I think it might actually be how I display this figure the most, especially for that more fit and shredded look. As we saw with Miles' jacket, Sentinel made a couple of weird decisions, and for Peter, the weird decision is going to be the newspapers. For some reason, they opted to put them inside the instruction booklets for you to have to cut out or copy. Personally, I didn't like the idea of having to take the paper out of the instructions and then cut them out hoping that I got it right. These steps could have been easily avoided had they just included the pieces separately. And then there's the lion head statue base, definitely one of the set's highlights. It's screen accurate and adds a ton of personality to any display. The sculpt looks and feels great with the stone-like textures and the hard edges. And not only that, but you do have the option of mounting it to a wall for a more creative display. So if you're torn between the standard and deluxe options for this Peter figure, I'd say go for the deluxe if you can. It's absolutely worth it. Now let's take a look at the articulation. Sentinel Spider-Verse figures have earned a reputation for their dynamic range of motion, and when I tested these two figures, they delivered on that. Miles has excellent articulation for posing. His head tilts and twists smoothly, and the shoulders move well in all directions. Some of you wanted to know if not having butterfly joints ruined these figures, and it turns out it doesn't. You're able to get the same range of motion, just at the cost of having noticeable gaps when the arms are pushed too far back or forward. The arms have a solid range with bicep swivel, elbow bend that goes past 90 degrees, and wrist swivel. Unfortunately, his wrists don't have a tilt feature, which limits some of the articulation. This will probably affect posing the most when trying to nail those web shooting poses, so I wish they had updated this in one of the several reissues that happened for this figure. The figure's midsection from the diaphragm to the waist has a lot of range, being able to twist and tilt in all directions, and the same goes for the legs. You have thigh swivel, you can kick the legs forward quite high, kick them out to the side, bend the knees, and get movement out of the ankles and toes. It's also worth mentioning mentioning that the thighs have a lot of range when wearing the shorts. They're attached to a ball joint which gives them smooth movement. The sneakers don't hinder ankle movement either, since the high top portion is a separate piece, and the toes also bend, which is perfect for creasing his J's. As for Peter's articulation, it brings a lot of the same dynamic range of motion that we saw in the Miles figure, but there are a couple of key improvements that take him a step further. The first major upgrade is the wrist tilt. Unlike Miles, whose wrists only rotate, Peter has the tilt function, and this allows you to give some more expression to the hand movements. And another improvement is in the knees. Peter's knees bend far enough that his calf can touch his thigh, allowing for deep crouches and kneeling poses that really bring out his flexibility. Similar to Miles, Peter doesn't have any butterfly joints in the shoulders. However, this does not hinder the figure's posability. Thanks to the impressive range of articulation, you can still achieve a wide variety of dynamic poses, both original and movie accurate when it comes to the two of these figures. Sentinel was really able to capture how these characters move in the film and how Spider-Man moves in general, and it's a lot of fun to work with. Some of you wanted to know if you could do a stop motion with these, and these figures are definitely a good option. The joints are tight and they hold poses well, so I could see them working for dynamic poses. In fact, I've seen these in action with artists' marvelous stop motions, and I eventually want to test this out myself, so if you want to see that video here on the channel, be sure to let me know. These Sentinel Into the Spider-Verse figures are truly impressive. The sculpt and paintwork are top tier, perfectly capturing the movie's unique art style. Both figures also boast excellent articulation despite some odd choices here and there, and the accessories are also going to be a huge plus for collectors, offering tons of options that add personality to the characters. I mean, Sentinel even included the lion statue based from the movie. How cool is that? Based on my overall experience with these Spider-Verse figures, I am all in, and I would love to see Sentinel make some more characters from the movies. They pretty much have everyone in terms of the heroes like Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Gwen, Penny Parker, so if we're talking villains, I'd love to see them make a Prowler or maybe even Doc Ock. And now that I think of it, we have not seen any company take on the massive Kingpin, so I think that would be interesting to see. But let me know in the comments which villain you'd want. I'll be putting these figures to the test very soon with a posing challenge, recreating some iconic poses and seeing just how well these things can hold up. So if you like Spider-Man and you're into posing action figures, get subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss that video. I hope to catch you in the next one, but until then, peace.